Okay, we are very thankful for your presence today. So your question is, consider a new student entering a university environment. Describe how the process of relationship development unfolds through the lens of social penetration theory, focusing on how self-disclosure plays a role in building trust and intimacy in this new relationship.
Um, right now I'm going to describe how the process of relationship development unfolds through the lens of social penetration theory, focusing on how self-disclosure plays a role in building trust and intimacy in this new relationship. But before I answer the question, I just want to let you all know, guys, that the context of this session, social penetration theory, or SPT. So it was actually developed by Irwin Altman and Dalmas Taylor in 1973. It also actually provides a useful framework for to understand the relationship, for understanding the relationships developed, particularly in the context of self-disclosure. Disclosure. So uh, it was also compared to onion because when you peel the onion, it has layers of a peel. And just like a people or human, when they introduce themselves or they they talk information about them, the alter ego comes out through their selves, just like when they met someone new in their lives. For example, being being it's like it has three layers. The outer layer, the inner layer, and the the outer layer, the core layer, and the inner layer. So so how can I consider it to a new student entering a university environment? For example, in the first meeting or first day of school, you will introduce yourself, um, but only in sharing basic information about yourself, like what is your name, where from, where is your previous school, or like what is your hobbies, something like that. And for the second layer, the core layer, the superficial layer, it's like you're sharing the more information to your classmates. And for the third layer is when you share highly information about yourself, or like example, deep And that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I'm Lovely Magay from House of Ravenclaw. This session, I'm gonna answer the question.
Okay, lovely. We are very, very thankful for your presence today. So your question is, imagine you are a foreign exchange student in a new country. Discuss how uncertainty reduction theory would explain the strategies you might use to reduce uncertainty in your interactions with locals, and how the strategies might impact the development of your relationship.
So, I'm gonna repeat the question. Imagine you are a foreign exchange student in a new country. Discuss how our uncertainty reduction theory would explain the strategies you might use to reduce uncertainty in your interactions with local, and how these strategies might impact the development of your relationship. So, uncertainty reduction theory would suggest that as a foreign exchange student, I would use strategies such as asking questions, observing local behaviors, and seeing common ground to reduce uncertainty in my interactions with locals. Thank you.
So, good day, guys!
Hi.
Welcome to our podcast. And this is your question. So, in a multicultural workplace, describe how communication accommodation theory might explain the way employees adjust their communication styles to accommodate colleagues from different cultural backgrounds. What are the possible consequences of such accommodations, both positive and negative?
So I think the communication accommodation theory, it works just how people change their communication styles to have a better understanding of the people with different culture, with different background culture, and to describe how this theory explains, there are two ways explains the adjustments of this employee, adjustment of their communication style, and to accommodate colleagues from different cultural backgrounds. And here's my 2 cents. There's this one type, let's call it convergence, and this convergence, so this employee can converge this colleague by the way, by adjusting this employee's communication style, like speaking or acting like their colleague. So it's like mirroring your colleague's communication style to have a better connection. That's convergence. But divergence, the employee is keeping his or her communication styles, but he or she will not adjust or change to represent his or her own culture. So adjusting and staying with your communication style have both positive and negative consequences. Like positive, you have better communication, strong connection with one another, and you have deep understanding. But adjusting your communication
manager from the United States, and a client from Japan. Using Hofstede's cultural dimension theory, analyze how cultural differences such as individualism versus collectivism and power distance might impact the communication dynamics in this meeting.
So thank you for this question. So, using Hofstede's cultural dimension theory, the communication between us and manager, a Japanese client, might be influenced by the manager's contracting with the Japanese client. Emphasize dimension.
Okay, so for your last question, we're very thankful that you are here again to answer our last question. So here it comes. Debate the role of social interaction versus innate abilities in the development of language skills, referencing key theories about the origins of language. How might this debate influence the way children acquire language in different cultural settings?
So, how do I debate? So, let's first discuss the social interaction. So, there's this theory that you acquire your language by interacting with people. But the innate abilities, it is the biological ability, means it is within you're within when you were born, and so the origin of your language is within you since you were born. And how might this debate influence the children acquiring the different cultural settings? So the cultural influence of this for their children is the early language learning through active communication or active conversation. They can acquire their early language by talking to people, talking to their close friends, families, and things like that. So they can also rely on passive learning, like highlighting innate cognitive abilities.
That's all. Wow, thank you so much for your participation in this podcast.
I learned more because of the
Yes.
questions.
Wow, thank you so much for answering. Thank you. So, good day everyone! I'm Anne Valerie Opiar from the House of Ravenclaw. So, here in our Bidaka podcast, welcome. So, I am the facilitator of this group, and for this session, I will answer the assigned question for me. So, let's get started. Here's our question. So, let's see what question might be mine. Okay, so my question is the number 6. From a social linguistic perspective, discuss the implications of the Tower of Babel myth on human communication and language diversity. How might the story reflect societal concerns about language fragmentation and the challenge of cross-cultural communication? So, from a social linguistic perspective, the Tower of Babel myth is highlighting the complexities and challenges in communicating styles, leading to a human misunderstanding. So, for my own opinion, as I search about Babel myth, it's all about different languages it is how can we use this in different dialects, or it provides a different style of communication, and how can we adapt it, and how can we use it to communicate with other people. So it helps us to have diversity, but sometimes it gains it gains the challenges for us people. So it is a social diversity that has a power to dynamics and cultural fragmentation, of course, raising an impressions of the um, mutual understandings, of course, and it also highlights the importance of communication in having it in our society or our environment. So, Tower of Babel is social linguistic perspective and how it might affect our languages. That's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am April C. Candelario from 1.2B and House of Praise One.
So hello, Ate April. We are very thankful that you are here in our Bida Ka podcast. So how are you?
I'm fine, thank you for asking me.
Wow, that's a very good news. Good to hear that. So are you ready for your question?
Yes.
Okay, so for your question, here we go. Discuss the implications of the proto-world theory on our understanding of early human communication. How might this theory help explain the emergence of complex language system in prehistoric human societies? And what challenges do linguists face in studying such as origins?
Thank you for the question, Giselle. So, for my perspective, the proto-world theory proposes that all languages may stem from one ancient fact, showing how shared linguistic roots might have sparked the development of complex languages in prehistoric societies. It emphasizes language as crucial for early human connection and survival. However, the theory presents significant challenges as linguistic, they rely on limited evidence and often speculative origins. So it's all inspiring but elusive concept to explore.
Good day, everyone. I'm Audrey Halde, and I am here to answer the question you will be given to me.
Okay, so good day, Ate. Good day, Ate Audrey, rather. So, we are very thankful that you are here in our 1.2 Bida Ka podcast. So, before we start, I would like to ask, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Wow, that's really a good news. Nice to hear that. So, here is your prepared question. In an online dating scenario, explain how uncertainty reduction theory might be applied to understand how two individuals decide to disclose personal information through messaging, and how this information impacts their likelihood of meeting in person.
Thank you for your question. I want to base it on my experience because I am kind person and that I love to talk somebody else in online dating to find a friend. The first thing I do is to greet him, her like, hi, hi, how are you today? And that is our conversation started. How the uncertainty reduction theory is applied. We know that every person that we meet is special, and you will doubt yourself or questioning try to talk. And this kind of person or not, the decision is always in you. But if you try to talk to them and you feel comfortable, you will share your things little by little and tell that person your personality, and there is a moment that both of you are misinterpreting, and but because of common sense, um, you're going to use it to have good communication, and both of you will be planned to live. Okay, that's
Okay.
all.
That's all for your answer. So I am very thankful that you made these answers, and I hope that you will be okay in our past lesson. So thank you very much for joining me to our Bidaka podcast.
Okay, thank you.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome again to our Bidaka podcast. I'm your host, Valerie, and I'm here again to answer my last and second question. So here we go. My question is, evaluate Noam Chomsky theory of universal grammar in the context of multilingualism. How does this theory support or challenge the idea that all humans share an inherent capacity for language acquisition, regardless of the languages they are exposed to? So, um, based on my own perspective, Noam Chomsky theory is a universal grammar strongly supports the idea that all humans possesses. It is all about how inherent capacity for language acquisition, um, which becomes even more evident in the context of multilingualism. His theory um, focuses on multilingualism and how it can be used in grammar. It helps other people to check if they use it very well, and also how would they apply it in their everyday human living. So I believe Chomsky concept emphasizes the remarkable flexibility and adaptability of the human brain in handling diverse and languages, highlighting our natural linguistic. So the potential of this is learning and influenced by more than intimate structures alone. That's all. So hello again, Ate April. Okay, so welcome again to our Bitaka podcast. So are you ready for your second question?
Yes.
Okay, so for your second question, imagine a scenario where a tourist from France visit an English-speaking country. How would communication accommodation theory explain the adjustments the tourists might make in their speech patterns to accommodate the local population? And what cultural factors could influence this accommodation?
So thank you for that question, Miss Anne. So as my perspective again, a French tourist visiting an English-speaking country, they may adjust their speech by slowing down and simplifying vocabulary, not just to understand, but to show respect and effort. However, the cultural background, such as preference for formality and pride in their linguistic identity, they could influence whether they fully adopt, preserve their style, find a balance. So their adjustment depends on mutual respect and social interactions.
Okay, that's all for your answers. Okay, so thank you very much for your answers. We are very thankful and grateful for your presence here in our Bidaka podcast.
Thank you also, Miss Anne.
And that's it in this episode of the House of Ravenclaw podcast, where you are always the Bida. And I'm Asta Carmina, signing off.